to let this thing kick in. And once again, my screen appears to be mirrored for some weird reason. Oh joy. Come on, a preview screen. There we go. The reason I wait is because I want to make sure that the stream is going out correctly, which it is. So, it's just me. There is no Stu Miller this week. There is no John Fouts this week. Stu Miller, I think, is probably at a gig. Can't work out why that screen is mirrored all the time. It's very annoying. I've even gone in and changed the settings on it. Now, will it let me? There we go. Right. There we go. Right. I don't think it's going to change anything whatsoever. So we'll just wing it, guys and girls. Let's wait. There we go. The stream's kicked back in. I was playing around with the camera settings to try and stop this mirroring image, so that when I hold things up, you can actually read it. For some weird reason, I don't know. I don't know why. Who knows? Anyway, how are you all? We are at the end of November. The year's gone very, very quick, and I thought I would just jump on and do a bit of a solo podcast. Just me, myself, and anybody who jumps in and jumps out to watch. Just see how you're all doing. Go through a few films that I've watched. I'm going to talk about Stranger Things without spoiling anything at all from this new batch. So anybody who's not watched the new episodes of season 5, do not worry about it. I'm not going to spoil anything at all, other than the fact I really enjoyed the episodes. We were doing like this mad catch up, Annette and I, of the Stranger Things previous seasons. So we'd started this, I think, around August, September, maybe, from season 1. And we're like, we've got a few months, we'll easily catch up. And we near enough did catch up, but because a lot of the later episodes of season 4 are stupidly long, like an hour and a half, or an hour and 40, or 2 hours and 21 if you want to take into account the season 4 finale, that kind of put us behind a little bit, because we didn't realize how long those things were until we were like a day or two in advance of watching them. But we caught up on the Thursday, which was the same day the new batch of 4 episodes dropped. So then we had to do that old wonderful thing where you stay off the internet and avoid spoilers, because people are dicks basically, and they do love to spoil stuff for some reason. We managed to successfully avoid any spoilers. There are pictures of things that happen in these new episodes that are all over the internet now, so I'm very, very glad that I managed to catch up. It's kind of a shame when you have to rush through episodes because you don't want some strangers ruining it for you. It's a shame, but I'm really, really enjoying this new batch. The first 4 episodes of season 5, the final season. We did hear the stories about how expensive they were, and you can kind of see it in a lot of them. You go, yeah, I get that this probably wasn't cheap to make. We get the next batch on the 26th of December here in the UK, so I'm guessing it'll be the evening of Christmas Day in the US and Canada and stuff when you guys and girls get the episodes. So enjoy them. I think it's another batch of 4, I think, not entirely sure. And then we get the finale at the end of the year. And then that's it. I saw a story this morning where, and it was one of the trade outlets that published the story, and it was like, just try, I've got a weird setting on my screen in a minute. There we go. Yeah, the story was basically, oh, what are Netflix going to do now that Stranger Things ended? And then you're like, what? And this story seemed to insinuate that because that Stranger Things is the only thing that Netflix has, which is not true. Don't get me wrong, Netflix has a lot of crap on it, but there's a lot of shows on there that maybe will become big. And I remember when House of Cards and Orange is the New Black dropped on Netflix, and they were big shows. They were huge shows at the time. They were also the first shows that dropped the whole, hey Fireball, hey Romana, They were huge, and I remember people sort of losing their minds a little bit, going, "This streaming platform is dropping a whole season all at once. People aren't going to like that." Blah blah blah. Now we fast forward a bunch of years, and people go mad if Netflix or whichever streaming platform doesn't drop the whole damn lot on at once. I personally, I don't know how you manage your viewing, your binge watching. I tend to like watching an episode or two a day for like a week or however long it is, and do it that way. My attention span now is not, I'm going to sit down for 8 hours and watch, you know, a full season of Stranger Things or whatever it is. I tend to space them out a little bit and not burn through them. Unfortunately, with some shows, you do have to burn through them because the internet loves to spoil them, and we don't like spoils. Hey Sam, how are you? Um, so yeah, how are Netflix going to cope once Stranger Things ends? Quite easily, to be fair, because they coped when Orange is the New Black, when House of Cards finished. Then obviously Cobra Kai was massive when they picked that up from YouTube TV. And then it was, oh my god, what are they going to do once Cobra Kai's finished? Well, I've not seen anybody talk about Cobra Kai in weeks. I've not seen anybody talk about Orange is the New Black in absolute months. Hi, Alex. Who's my favourite Stranger Things character? Good question. And again, I'm not going to spoil anything about season 5, so anybody who's not watched those, don't worry about it. I'm very, very cagey on spoilers. My least favourite character was Will. Just because he didn't seem to do a right lot in the first 4 seasons, other than this. That's pretty much Will's thing. Oh my god, I've got a tingle in my neck. So I wasn't a fan of his. Max, I'm a big fan of Max. I'm glad that her storyline sort of ramped up a bit in the season 4 and stuff. We've got the whole running up that hill. So it's Max. Is it Erica that's Lucas's sister? She's awesome. She just like is mouthy as hell and doesn't take no crap from nobody, which is great. 11, I'm kind of torn on my whole thoughts of Millie Bobby Brown. I think she's great. Fair play to her. But I just think the whole, I don't know, she's like a stroppy teenager in a lot of them because, you know, obviously she's playing a stroppy teenager and slamming doors and whatnot. But no, I think it's probably Max and Erica, I think, are the funniest. I like Steve. I think he's sort of grown on me. Obviously, he started off as a big old bully in the first season, but then we've kind of got used to him. Dustin, I think, is great. Other than him being a shady little so-and-so and was it Dart, keeping him secret? Dustin, did you not learn anything from the previous episodes? No. So he's great. I like the show. The thing is with Stranger Things is a lot of people really love that show. They're like, oh my god, this is the best thing since somebody invented slicing bread. And I do like it. I really enjoy Stranger Things, but I'm not like, I remember people with season 4. So season 4 had, hey James, season 4 had aired, and then people were like, oh, how long till the next season? I'm not quite there with Stranger Things. I'm not at the point where can we just fast forward through months of my or years of my life so we can get to the next ones. But I do enjoy it. I am thoroughly enjoying this new season though. And I'm fascinated by some of the discourse and some of the moaning and groaning that's going on the internet about season 5. Again, no spoilers, don't worry about it. But some people really are miserable gits, aren't they? When they're like, it sucks. It's terrible. What's the point? You know, really? Are they watching the same thing I'm watching? Because I absolutely loved those 4 episodes. I think they were really, really good. They felt like a proper sequel. Do you know, like when you watch a movie, for example, like Star Wars or Empire Strikes Back or something, and then you have to wait a few years for the next part to come out, and then it comes out, and then you're like, wow, these characters, yes, they look a bit older, but I'm seeing new stories with them and all that type of stuff. This new batch of Stranger Things feels like that. It feels like a proper sequel to the previous, which obviously is a proper sequel, but you know what I mean? It feels like, yay, we're back again. So I am eagerly awaiting Boxing Day in the UK when these new episodes drop. I think it's really, really good. The problem is with doing this rewatch of Stranger Things is I'm kind of behind on a lot of other TV shows because we were doing this mad dash. We got to last weekend and we're thinking, well, we've got like 4 or 5 episodes left to watch, so we need to watch one a day. Oh crap, the finale is 2 hours and 20 minutes, so we need to schedule that in somehow. So we just like shelved everything else that we were watching, and we got to the point where we were watching like a couple of episodes, or at least chunks of episodes each day, so we could try and catch up and not have spoilers ruined. And so we're a couple of episodes behind on the It TV series Welcome to Derry, which I am also enjoying. I think it's really, really good. It's very similar to Stranger Things because, you know, Stranger Things is very similar to It and The Goonies and Firestarter and a lot of the Stephen King stuff. But we're a couple of episodes behind on Welcome to Derry. Again, you go online and you see what people are saying about this show, and they're like, oh, boring. It's like, really, what show are you watching? I don't know. It fascinates me how, I mean, obviously films are films and we like what we like and we dislike what we dislike. It's fine. Some of my most favourite films people absolutely despise. Meet Joe Black, Blair Witch Project, that sort of thing. Those are 2 films that I absolutely adore, but a lot of people think suck. And Brad Pitt even thinks Meet Joe Black sucks, and he was in it, which is quite weird. But people are moaning about the It TV series. They're like, oh, it makes no sense. What's the point? Blah blah blah. And yet, you know, we're watching it. It's great. I'm really, really enjoying it. So there's that. And I'm going to try and watch some of Welcome to Derry later on. Start catching up a bit. We haven't seen Bill Skarsgård in Welcome to Derry yet, but I'm sure he will pop up because that's the thing with the Welcome to Derry show and universe. Pennywise isn't always the clown. You know, it is the creature. And if you read all your Stephen King stuff, which I've only read some of it, but Annette has read like all of it so far, it is a manifestation, or a thing that's in a lot of the King stuff, be it Randall Flagg and all these other different books. So it, or Pennywise, isn't just an it thing. I love the fact that Welcome to Derry is tying in The Shining, so that's very, very good. So I'm enjoying that. And it's a show you don't really have to have seen any of the other King stuff, but there's little Easter eggs that are thrown in there, so it's very, very good. Tulsa King is also a TV show that I am a couple of episodes behind. I believe that finished its season finale last week or the week before, so we can now just plow ahead and catch up with that one. Good show, can't go wrong with that. Only Murders in the Building, we are watching on Disney Plus. We've just finished season 3 of that one. About 10 episodes per season, roughly around half an hour each. Selena Gomez, Martin Short, Steve Martin are great. And apparently the next season they're off to Los Angeles, so that'll be quite a shift from the New York settings. So that'll be fun. We're probably going to start that this week now that we've caught up with the Stranger Things universe. I've just finished a complete rewatch of one of my favourite TV shows, which I will grab the box set and show you. And it's going to be mirrored, unfortunately, because I can't quite work out how to make the camera not mirrored, but The Shield, which is an amazing TV show. I do have the full box set of this. Wonderful thing. If you haven't seen The Shield, treat yourself. It's absolutely amazing. It is corrupt cops. It is gangland. It's wonderful. It's a few years old, but it still holds up. So I would highly recommend you do check out The Shield. I've charged my PS Portal up, which I'm going to play a little bit more of. Probably maybe today, tomorrow. I didn't really play much of the PS Portal this week, just because I was busy catching up on Stranger Things episodes, but I'm still really, really loving this PS Portal. I did show it off when I was chatting with Stu Miller the other week, and let's just see if it works. I mean, my PlayStation downstairs is off, so therefore this thing might not come on. Let's have a look. No, it's not. So it won't come on because obviously my thing's not on. But I was going to try and show you the screen on the PS Portal, but I can at least show you the unit. It is a wonderful little piece of kit. I picked it up for £199.99. You can get them for I think around £179 now if some of the Black Friday deals are still on. And it is effectively a DualSense, so you can actually see my reflection in there, so that's kind of weird, isn't it? So it's a DualSense controller with an 8-inch screen in the middle. It feels very solid because it is quite solid. If you look at the thickness of this thing, it's obviously beveled at the end. You've got under here your charger port, and then you've got here your headphone socket, so you can just plug whichever headphones you want. You don't need to go out and get the fancy PlayStation ones. You can just plug in your headphones. There is a button here to toggle the mic if you're doing your online. You also got your joy pads, which work just as well as they do on the DualSense, 2 of those. And it's surprisingly easy to control as well. I am doing all right, Ollie. I am doing all right. I'm getting there slowly. But it's surprisingly, and it's not heavy. It is not heavy. Obviously, you can feel the weight of it because you are carrying the screen in the middle. But I think if you rest it on something, be it a cushion, be it your lap, it is a really, really good piece of kit. You're getting roughly 4 hours worth of battery life out of this, out of a charge. You can extend the battery life probably up to that point by switching off things like the haptics, and you can dim the lights that go around the DualSense and stuff. Thanks for calling me an idiot, that's nice. I've been called worse though, to be fair. Is that all you got? I'm impressed. The lag on it is virtually nothing. So as long as you're tapping into a reasonable speed Wi-Fi, then you're well away. I've played, I think I only played like 2 or 3 games on it. I played, hey Phil, how you doing? Hey Chris, do get a life. Wow, let's kick this little rat out the channel, shall we? Here we go, let's block him. Done. Just kicked some stupid idiot out of the chat. Yeah, so I played, I think the first game I played in it was actually Black Ops 4. I'm way behind on the Black Ops games, by the way. I just wanted to test the multiplayer, and the what do you call it? The response time on it was impressive. So much so, I actually got a better score on the PS Portal playing multiplayer online than I do playing it on a 65-inch screen, which was quite weird. Yeah, don't worry, Phil. I'm not listening. I've kicked him out anyway, because he was clogging up the timeline, the chat room. Yeah, I got a better score on this than I did on my big TV. The next game I played was Stray, which, if you've not played Stray, it was one of the free games this month, November, on the PS Plus thing. And you take control of a stray cat. And the cinematic at the beginning, you're a stray cat with a bunch of other cats, and you become separated, and you fall into this weird post-apocalyptic. Thank you, Chris. I do try and have a big brain. Sometimes it doesn't work, though, unfortunately. But I'm doing all right at the minute. And so you control a stray cat. You fall into this weird post-apocalyptic world, and I'm guessing you've just got to try and get out this city. So at the point, I'm now running around controlling this cat, making sure the poor cat doesn't get injured or anything like that. What's going on with that chat? Very strange. Oh yeah, message hidden. Right, okay. Yeah, whatever. That troll's still in the chat, so I can't see him, so that's all good. Get a life. Jesus, what's wrong with you? Plenty of YouTube channels out there. If you don't like this one, thank you, Chris. Please do subscribe. I've got a whole bunch of varied content on this, not just me chatting about movies and stuff. I do podcasts with co-hosts, although they're not around at the minute. I do unboxings. I do reviews. I'm just a I'm just an aging movie geek, to be fair. So yeah, so the stray cat. So I'm navigating around this apocalyptic world, jumping on drain pipes and through buildings and all that sort of stuff. There's a lot of puzzles in the game, but it's also quite arcadey. It's very atmospheric, and I had an absolute blast. I played some on the PS Portal, and next thing I knew, I'd played like an hour and a half, and I was sitting down in front of my 65-inch TV screen, and yet I had just as much fun, if not more, playing it on the PS Portal than the big TV. The other game I've played a little bit of is Crash Bandicoot, the trilogy. God, that game's stressful. I love the Crash Bandicoot games. I think they're really, really good. But the older you get, the harder those damn games get. And you might have been great at them 10 or 20 years ago, but those games are a nightmare now. They're so stressful. You feel your heart rate going up and everything. So played a bit of that because Annette and I were sitting next to each other. So we're like, let's do a level to a level. So we did a level. For some reason, Alexa just decided to... Alexa, stop. What's with the Alexas just going off whenever they choose to? So we were playing a bit of that, and then I'd finish a level, and I would pass it over to Annette to play. So it was easier. So it was fun. I'm now looking... I'm going to make sure that I do play more of the Portal and video games in general. What was the reason that I got it? I was looking at the hashtag on X. If you go into X, if people still use that now, and you do PS Portal hashtag, a lot of people are complaining about it. I'm guessing a lot of people just like bashing PlayStation. I have an Xbox and a PlayStation. I use the PlayStation more than the Xbox, but I have both. They both have their uses. And a lot of people are bashing the PS Portal. What's the point? Why get one? It's only a Wi-Fi device and all that sort of stuff. And that is a valid point. It is only a Wi-Fi thing. I can't go sit on a beach and, you can't preload games on this thing. But you can play the games that you own in your PS library and play them that way. So it is a Wi-Fi device. But it's like I'm sitting in my little office room now, and the PlayStation 5 that I have is downstairs. It's totally different room than the one I'm in now. But if my PlayStation was in rest mode now, I could put this on and I could play some games. The save games work, the trophies work. I can then come off this, go downstairs, switch on my TV and resume playing it on the big screen and vice versa. So I can play this in the bedroom if I'm just a bit awake at night, like 2, 3 in the morning. I'm not necessarily going to get up, go downstairs, put the PlayStation TV on and faff around with games that way. But I can just pick up my PS Portal and play that. So I am a fan. Yes, it is a Wi-Fi device, but it's 180 quid or 200 as I paid for it. It does have its uses. What you can also do with this, if you go around to a friend's house, doesn't matter where they live, be it 2 miles, be it 100 miles, you tap into their Wi-Fi, you can play your games on your PlayStation through that. So yes, it is a Wi-Fi device, but it doesn't necessarily have to be your Wi-Fi. So for me personally, I am enjoying the PS Portal. I just do need to use it a little bit more, but I will most definitely be planning on doing that more next year. We're in near enough the final month of the year. That is insane. This year has gone really, really quick. For me anyway, I'm dealing with health issues left, right and centre. Oh joy. They are up and down, and I don't necessarily have my good days and my bad days. I have my crap days and then more crap days. So it's a different varying thing. Thankfully at the minute I'm doing all right. So my plan this year was to do more video gaming and watch more films I wanted to watch and stuff, but the whole health craziness has kind of battered that a little bit, which was part of the reason that I got the PS Portal, because if I am having a not a great day, then what I can do is just sit in bed and be a lazy git and play me PS Portal. So I was thinking about re-upping my PS Plus I used to have PS Plus, but I'm not as big a video gamer as I'd like to be. I probably play each week maybe like an hour and a half, 2 hours worth of video games. So it's not a lot, because there's that many other distractions. There's that many movies, there's that many TV shows, there's all the episodes of Stranger Things that I've got to catch up on. There's podcasting, there's running the websites that I run, there's all the social media stuff that I do. So there's a lot of distractions that take me away from just basically sitting around doing not much. Let me just, I'm trying to work something out here. Right. Does anybody know how to kick somebody out of a YouTube channel? So if anybody in the chat knows how to kick somebody out of the YouTube chat, let me know, because there's an annoying little oink in there that's being not too much of a pain in the arse, because I'm not letting them distract me too much. But I can block them, but then that means I can't see them, but I can still see the stupid little messages pop up. So I don't quite know why they're here. I don't know them, they don't know me. So they need to get a life. Go do something fun. I don't understand why people on the internet think, do you know what, I'm just gonna just hang around and be a dick. You're wasting your own time. You're not wasting mine, because I'm here anyway and I'm 99% ignoring you. You're just wasting your own time. So very sad, very, very sad. Yeah, thinking about re-upping my PS Plus. I only have the basic one. Hey Charlie, how are you? I have the basic one because I don't spend enough time, so I don't necessarily need the game trials or the old games catalogue, but I like getting the free games each month, and just sitting playing with them. Apparently one of the ones that's coming out in December for the PS Plus, the free game, is the Lego Horizon game, which I'm looking forward to playing that. So that should be fun. So yeah, thinking about doing the PS Plus. It's 60 quid a year. It's just like, I really miss the days when I used to play a lot of video games. And at some point I want to do a podcast with John Fouts where we just go through where we just go through our favourite video games of all time. And I often think back to what games I spent the most amount of time of. I remember playing, I used to play a lot of Call of Duty. I think around the time of like Modern Warfare 2 and the first Black Ops, and then like Black Ops 2 I think was the last one that I really played a lot of. I used to play a hell of a lot of multiplayer stuff, a lot. And then I kind of dropped out of that a little bit. But I like playing shooters. I'm not very good at them, so if you ever see me in a game, you'll probably rack up some points just by shooting me. You will find me on the PlayStation if you just look up from page to screen with the number 2. That's me. So I enjoy that. I enjoy like the arcadey type games. Crash Bandicoot is great. Yep, definitely. We picked up Crash Bandicoot 4. My God, that game was so stressful. That was so hard. I don't think we never finished it. There's one sort of sequence in Crash Bandicoot 4 where you've got to jump, and then in midair you do something, and I'm sure it's some sort of spinning umbrella or something you've got to do that only lasts for a few seconds, and we couldn't. And then you've got to do it till you land on this lily pad or whatever it was, platform. Couldn't do it. Got well stressed at that game, to the point you can just feel your heart rate going through the flipping roof. So we just went, you know what, I don't want to be reported as somebody's died playing Crash Bandicoot 4. So we kind of bailed out of that one. And then we've gravitated towards the original trilogy. Thank you. Thank you, Mario. Thank you. I will try and have a good day. I'm enjoying it so far. So, and these comments are all nice as well. So thank you to everybody who's leaving comments in the chat. So yeah, we've gravitated back towards Crash Bandicoot 1, 2 and 3, which are easier than 4, but there's a lot of things in that are really hard. It's pretty easy playing it on the Portal, but we do tend to play it on the big TV. more than anything else. I'm so behind in games. I started playing The Last of Us maybe 6 months ago. I waited until the TV show had finished because we'd started watching the TV show, so it was nice to go into the TV series not knowing anything that was going to happen and all that sort of stuff. I enjoyed it. I thought the show was fine. And then I went to play the game, and I don't want to say I got bored with the game because I'm sure the game's a classic, but because I'd watched the TV show, I kind of knew where the game was going for the most. So it felt like I was just on rails. And yeah, I probably do have more likes than viewers. Who knew? I don't know. I don't know what's going on with live streaming. I'm still getting used to this live streaming thing. But yeah, I'm all right. Whether it's likes, whether it's viewers. I'm in a lot of, well, not a lot. I'm in a few podcasting groups on Facebook. And you'll get people that'll jump in there. I've been doing this for like 12, 13 years, not on YouTube, but just podcasting in general. This is episode 787, I think, if I remember rightly enough. So I'll be doing this a while. I do it because I like it. I prefer recording with the co-hosts, but the co-hosts aren't always available, and so it's a case of, do I not put a show out this week, or do I just do a solo one and just chat? Still getting used to the solo ones. I enjoy them, but obviously I don't enjoy them as much as chatting to a co-host, whether it's John or Chris or Stu Miller or Neil. But yeah, the podcasting groups, you get a lot of people who jump in and they'll go, hey, I started a podcast up like a month ago and I've only had 50 downloads or 100 downloads or 20. How do I increase it? How do I increase it? And one thing I learned years ago is not to give a crap about the numbers. I don't. You know, most podcasters don't make any money at all from podcasting. There's obviously the few exceptions, your Kevin Smiths, your Joe Rogans and such like, your Ricky Gervaises. But generally podcasting, you ain't gonna make money at it. You can make contacts through it. I mean, that's why I enjoy doing the movie ones. So you can, you know, if you're a movie fan, for example, or if you're a gamer, you can get to the point where you're so known as a gamer or a movie podcaster that it opens up doors so you can get access to filmmakers or game developers or such and such. I do not do it for the money because there isn't any money that goes into the podcast. Thank you, Ghost, much appreciated. Hope you do find some videos on here you enjoy. There's a whole big mix: unboxings, reviews, podcasts, interviews with movie stars, me wandering around Comic Cons and filming cosplayers, and not in a weird way, but just filming. There's a whole big mix. Toy unboxings, a lot. So I do appreciate that. Thank you. So yeah, I don't bother about how many people download the podcast. I stopped looking at the audio download numbers years and years ago because I find podcasting very, very therapeutic. You know, what would I be doing if I wasn't doing this? I'd probably just be staring at a TV or playing some Crash Bandicoot or something like that, which I could do later on. But I've been podcasting with John Fouts for probably 11 years now. John is from North Carolina, US. I'm from, you know, middle of England, Lancashire. But I do have a hint of a Scottish accent, just in case anybody's wondering what the hell my accent's going on with. We've never met, but we've had hundreds of hours worth of conversations. Same with Chris. Chris is a very, very talented musician. He records under the name Enerex, and he is just insanely talented. He and I have never met, but I've dropped into the chat on his album's launch party. We've podcasted on here. Stu Miller is probably a few hours up the road. He's in Sunderland. Never met him, but we have. Hi to Lincolnshire. We've never met, but we've recorded hundreds of hours, so it's very, very therapeutic. And I don't do it for the numbers. I think if a podcaster starts podcasting and their goal is to get as many downloads as possible and make lots of money, that's not a good reason to start podcasting. A very wise co-host called Harold, who I think he now lives in Florida. He and I started recording near enough at the beginning, and he once gave me a really good bit of advice. He said, podcast until you don't enjoy it anymore. And it's a very, very wise, Harold no longer podcasts with me, so I guess he stopped enjoying it. But it's a very, very good bit of advice is, if you're not enjoying what you're doing, don't do it. And I think that's a good bit of advice for everybody. I think I've worked out how to... There we go, right, okay. I think I've worked out how to kick somebody. I was actually on... Ooh, that works, yeah. There is, so I was wondering, I had this idiot in the chat before, and I couldn't work out how to kick him. But I've now worked out how to do it. It turns out I was on the wrong... I have access to more than one YouTube channel, and I was on the wrong one. So now I've got back onto the front page of screen one. There is an option to put a user in timeout, and I've put that Dozy Burke in timeout for 24 hours. So by that time, this show will most definitely have ended. So that was something that I was working on. But yeah, podcasting, it's fun. It's also a legacy. Now, another wonderful podcast is a guy called Anthony Alex, who did a show called the Angry Mailman podcast. Love that show. That was one of the podcasts that I used to listen to at the beginning, which helped get me into podcasting. Like, this sounds fun, I'd like to do it. And he told me once that he podcasts as a legacy. So I'm like, what do you mean by a legacy? And he said, well, because he has children. And he said, one day he will no longer be around, similar age to me. One day he'll no longer be around, but there will be hundreds and thousands of hours of him talking, telling stories for his kids to listen to. Now, I don't have children, but there's a few people out there that like what I do. So therefore, there are hundreds and hundreds of hours of me talking about various bits and pieces. Periodically, I do still keep the full archive of all the shows that I've done. I always make sure I keep an MP3 version of every episode in a folder. It's filed away to what year it came out. And one of the things I've noticed last year when I looked through this archive was there's a bunch of episodes in there that feature people who have passed away since then. And that's really sad. But these episodes exist. And they're there, and periodically I will put them back out into the open and just, get to hear these stories that people who aren't around anymore get to talk about. I've been very privileged to be able to host a bunch of Q&A panels at like UK Comic Cons. One of them was Sci-Fi Wales, which ran for 4 years, and I was the Q&A panel host for those 4 years, and that would basically entail me starting around 11 o'clock in the morning and talking till about 5 o'clock at night, one panel after the next, after the next, after the next, and various people from Doctor Who, Star Wars, Game of Thrones, Red Dwarf, I'm trying to think what else, there's a whole bunch. They would come on stage and I'd get to chat to them. I'd get to ask them whatever I chose and then open it up to the audience, and the audience would get to ask their questions. But for a film geek to be able to stand on stage and just have like half a dozen people from Game of Thrones sit down and listen to what I say, and then they leave, and then some Star Wars people come on and I get to talk to them and ask them my questions and all that sort of stuff. It was absolutely mind-blowing. And unfortunately, some of those aren't around anymore. Yet I still have the memories and the recordings, because I made sure I got all these recorded, be it film or be it audio, that it would be there for... Hey, welcome back. You weren't long. Did you bring cups of tea or... Don't know. but it was kind of mind blowing. I think I did in the 4 years, I think it was like 28, 29 panels that I did. And that was between 2015 and 2018 was the last one. So that was fun. And then 2017, I took myself off took myself off. I'll explain the thing. So going to various Comic-Cons in the 2000s and then doing the whole Q&A panel thing in 2015, 16, 17 and 18 in Sci-Fi Wales, I made sure that I got all these filmed and I shot footage. And then if I would go down to like London Comic-Con or Showmasters or something and go to meet people as a paying customer type thing, I'll get to that question in a minute, Ghost. That's an interesting one. It's an unusual question, but I'm alright with that. I'll come back to that question in a second. So I would film all this stuff at Comic-Cons, and then the footage would just, hey John Shelton TV, Mr. Shelton TV, subscribe to his channel, good guy. Hope you stick around for a bit, John, and have a chat, because I'm a fan of yours. So I would go to these Comic-Cons, and John appears in some of these videos as well, and I would just film stuff, and then it would sit on a hard drive or a mini DV tape or whatever. And then around 2015, I decided I want to try and make a movie, quote unquote, for what it's worth, about my experience going around various Comic-Cons. And I ended up coming up with the name Experiencing Comic-Con because, it doesn't get more simple than that, really, does it? And so I took all this footage of stuff I'd shot in the early 2000s, going down to London Comic-Con and seeing all the really cool cosplay and meeting Edward James Olmos and R.J. Mitty from Breaking Bad and Saul Rubinek from True Romance and Virginia Hay from Farscape and Robert Llewellyn from Red Dwarf. Crazy list. And so I started piecing this film thing together using all this old archival footage that I had. And then it sort of segued into the Sci-Fi Wales stuff, where it's like, okay, so I've been a paying punter for all these Comic-Cons. Now I'm going to be a Q&A host. Let me shift into that. And so I started assembling this thing together, and included all the 2015 Sci-Fi Wales stuff. And then I got to the point where in the editing of Experiencing Comic-Con, I had no ending. So I'm like, how do I end it without just it being a stop? I don't really want it to just go, hey, that's your lot, now I'm done. How the hell do you end a documentary called Experiencing Comic-Con? Wouldn't it be great to go to San Diego Comic-Con? Now, I live in Lancashire, and San Diego is not in Lancashire. It's quite expensive to get to, let alone trying to get tickets for San Diego Comic-Con. So I had that whole struggle of, I need to save up and buy, tickets to get there. I need to try and get tickets to get there. And I did manage to get to San Diego Comic-Con, so that became my ending. So if you go onto this channel that you're watching this on, or if you're listening to this on the audio one and you go to the From Page to Screen YouTube channel, you can see Experiencing Comic-Con, the documentary in there. I also did another version of it where I just sat down and did a director's commentary on it. So there's two versions of it. The guest list in Experiencing Comic-Con is insane. For somebody's first film that was about as guerrilla filmmaking as you could get, it's literally just me wandering around with a camera capturing stuff. I've never really encountered any resistance, so there was never a guest that went, oi, stop pointing the camera at me. Everybody was super nice. Yes, you are, John and Emma Dark is in the documentary. Never encountered any resistance, and everybody was super cool. I was always tempted to go back and do a sequel of sorts, but I think Comic-Cons have changed a lot, not necessarily for the better since those days. But the cameos in Experiencing Comic-Con, Stan Lee's in there. Now, who the hell does their first film and ends up with a Stan Lee cameo? I did. Really bizarre. Richard Hatch from Battlestar Galactica's in there. Elvira's in there. Bonkers. Absolutely bonkers. Periodically, I do go back and just watch that. I cringe at the scenes when I'm in it because I'm not a fan of looking at my own face, even though I'm live streaming. But it was kind of a mind-blowing time. And like I say, I have pondered at some point going back. At one point, I was very close to doing one called Experiencing Fright Fest. But the accommodation costs in London, forget it. That's way too expensive. And then I nearly did one Experiencing Grimfest, which is a Manchester film festival, which is great. I absolutely love going to Grimfest. I haven't done it in a couple of years because real life likes to jump up and kick me in the throat around the time Grimfest's on. But I do still keep an eye on them. Great. I went down there and filmed quite a lot of the Grimfest stuff, but it didn't quite cut together into anything similar to Experiencing Comic-Con, which is a shame. But I did film a whole bunch of content down there. I sat down with Alice Krieger. I sat down with Ben Miller. I sat down with Mick Garris, one of the highlights. Dominic Brunt. So I've sat down with a whole bunch of people, and they're all sort of separate interviews that are on the YouTube channel and stuff. But I do enjoy filmmaking. I have to keep using air quotes because I'm not a filmmaker. I'm just somebody who has a camera who can point it at people, and thankfully they are okay with it. But for the fans of people who experiment with filmmaking, Mr. Shelton TV in the chat there, he does a lot. He does a lot of short films, music videos, all that sort of stuff. I do envy the guy because he's got the energy to do all these things. I tend to mentally struggle to do anything nowadays. I don't mean that in a bad way. I'm going to cough a minute. Oh, I did have a drink, but it's disappeared. My enthusiasm level seems to take a kick sometimes where I'm like, ooh, I really want to do. For example, I've got this unboxing video to do of the Shield. And I've had that for about a month. And I've done all the research for it, but I haven't sat down and actually recorded the video yet. I will get it done at some point. But I've had too many plates spinning, shall we say, which is, I think, something I mentioned to John in a chat the other week, where the spinning of the plates is something that I like to use as an example. So I think as adults, or whatever we are, we can sometimes have too many plates spinning. And by that, if anybody remembers variety shows from years and years ago, they used to have these performance artists who would have a skinny pole, like a pen, and then there would be a plate on it, and they'd start spinning it. So the plate would be spinning, and the pole would just carry on itself. And then they'd end up with another one, and it'd be a plate, so they'd have 2 spinning, and then they'd have 3 spinning, and then 4 spinning, and then 6 spinning, and so on. And you do get to a certain point where you've got that many plates spinning that you end up, up to your knees in broken cutlery. And I think us people who live on the internet, John uses the word overwhelming, exactly. It can get a bit overwhelming if you've got too many plates spinning. So sometimes I will scale back doing things and then pick those things up when I need to. So at the minute I've got podcasts and websites and stuff. Unboxings will get done at some point, but they are one of the plates that I can just put down for now and pick up later on. Christmas is just around the corner. Don't know about you, I'm not a massive fan of Christmas. I'm not against anybody, I'm not anti-Christmas, I'm just not a massive fan of Christmas for me. But I have no issues with anybody who loves Christmas. I do have issues with those people that put Christmas trees up in like October. Give me a break. Put it up after Thanksgiving. Let Thanksgiving have its time, and then if you want to put it up, put it up. After that, ours will be going up probably this coming week, because we have a fun little project at the minute. We have a cat called Oscar, who is just over 1 year old. See you soon, Ghost. Oscar is just over 1 year old, and so he's out of that kitten stage, but he's not fully adult stage yet. And so we opened him up, just in case we didn't have enough plates spinning. We opened him up a YouTube channel and a TikTok channel. So on YouTube, if you go into Oscar the Famous Cat, you will probably see him. And he's got like 60 subscribers or whatever at the minute. So we're doing these little short videos featuring Oscar. Obviously, it's not easy to direct a cat, so it's just a case of if you happen to be there at the right time with your camera phone pointing at him and he does something stupid, then brilliant, we're using that video. So there's videos of him like playing with his toys. We got a video of him being towel dried the other day because we picked up this towel from a company called Le Pepino, and it has a discount code for that company. And so we wanted to just use this towel on Oscar, and he went outside when it was absolutely chucking it down with rain, came back in, let us towel dry him, filmed it. There you go, there's a nice little advert for Le Pepino's towel. And so that goes on his YouTube and his TikTok and stuff. So one of the things we've got planned this week is he's never seen a Christmas tree with the lights and the baubles. Now, it's kind of a recipe for disaster, I suspect, because we know that this cat will play with anything, be it sweet wrappers, be it pens, anything, balls of paper, proper cat toys. Cat's insane. It's the weirdest cat ever. It's got so many habits. It's just bonkers. And so what we're going to do is we're going to put the tree up in the other room. We're going to fully decorate it, put the lights on, baubles, everything, and then we're going to let the cat in to investigate. Two things will happen. One, Oscar will look at the tree and go, "That's quite nice. I'm impressed. I'm going now for a sleep and I'm going to eat some biscuits." Or he may just go, "Ooh, baubles," and pull the whole damn tree down. Interesting question. I'll get to that one in a second as well. I'm racking up questions. I love these questions in the chat. Thank you guys for chucking those in. So we're going to make sure we're filming all this as well. So if the cat does sort of pull bubbles off, then do you know what, we get a video out of it. Hopefully the tree doesn't fall on Oscar, but he's a fast runner, so he'll get the hell out of there. So we're going to do that this week for that. So we are slowly building up Oscar the Famous Cat's YouTube channel. Just a bit of fun. Just another plate to spin in case we need it. So, Odium in the chat, when is the Epstein movie coming out? I heard there's a big twist regarding the files themselves at the end. Oh god. The thing is, at some point you'll probably get an Epstein movie. And nothing would surprise me. We've got a movie about Facebook, for God's sake. No, I like your questions. They're fine. Just as long as you're not a nasty troll, that's good. I would love some tea ghost. Milk and 2 sugars, please. Much appreciated. Yeah, will we ever get an Epstein movie? Well, we've got a movie about Steve Jobs. We've got a movie about Facebook. Never got a MySpace movie for some reason. Somebody missed a trick there. But I don't know whether we'll get an Epstein movie. I suspect not. What's the worst roads in Lancashire? Like you asked earlier, didn't you, Ghost? I don't know if there's a worst one. There's one in a town called Haslingden, which is a town I used to live in, and there's like this weird slip road that comes down, and then it pulls onto the main road, and there's a full-on blind spot there. So the amount of people that have just been walloped going down that. I don't know the name of the road, but it's pretty bad. But it is a road that a lot of taxis use and a lot of cars use, and it's just really badly designed because the slip road meets the main road just after a corner on the main road. It's terrible. So yeah, that road sucks. If I happen to be in that town at some point, I'll find out what that is and give everybody a much needed update on that. But that's probably my least favourite road in Lancashire. Not that it's something that I... let's have a look. A16. So boo, A16 sucks. There we go. So big thumbs down to the A16. Yeah, that threw me then. I was trying to think, I nearly thought of something to segue onto, and I kind of just derailed myself. So yes, Christmas is coming up. Never mind. I like the idea of Christmas. Things slow down. People are nice to each other, but I kind of think people should be nice to each other all year round, not just on the 25th of December. We're going out for Christmas Day meal, just because it's easier. And yeah, well, decorations. Yeah, we used to. I remember as a kid, because I grew up in Scotland, which none of that makes a difference. But my parents went full on out with Christmas decorations. There was tinsel all around the place. There was Christmas cards on strings around on every flipping wall that you could mention. There was the huge Christmas tree. There was everything. The snow in the window. Do you remember that spray on snow that you used to put everywhere? Nowadays, I tend to just have a tree up. That's pretty much it. And that sucker usually comes down on the 27th of December. Once all the presents have been dished out to people, that tree gets removed and stuck in a box. Yeah, so I just don't really go full hog for decorations. But I don't have a big family, which is part of the reason I'm not a huge Christmas fan. Never have been. Because I do envy these people that have got huge families and also have a social battery that can cope being in a room with 20 people all talking and all that sort of craziness. So for me, my ideal Christmas is getting up in the morning after a good night's sleep, which never happens, getting up, having some breakfast, leisurely opening presents. I don't tend to get too many, so if anybody wants to send me presents, much appreciated. Opening the presents and then having a rest and then having a nice meal and then watching something like Superman the movie or A View to a Kill or Flight of the Navigator or The Goonies or Ghostbusters or something, and then just watching movies into the night. That's my ideal Christmas, is stuff like that. Ghost, you really are. Where did your road enthusiasm come from? I posted a question in a Facebook group this morning saying what's everybody's hobbies that some people might think is unusual. Podcasting was mine. I think road enthusiasm might be one. That would fit in perfectly. So where did that come from? Or is it just something that just popped up? So yes, we've got Christmas. I'm more a fan of New Year. Because New Year, I do the New Year's resolutions. I do enjoy them. I like to sort of look at what's gone wrong in the previous year. This year is a lot, so it's health stuff. There's not a lot I could do about that at the minute. I look at all the viewing habits that I had in the previous year, and then I decide, that's pretty good. Yeah. How many hours does it take to drive to Liverpool then? From where you are, Ghost? I'm probably like an hour from Liverpool or something. But I don't drive, so I catch a train. Yeah, the viewing habits, what style of films I watch. And I am going to get into movies in a second because I've watched some very strange ones, some very strange mix. Next year, for example, one of my resolutions is to watch a lot of the big films. Wow, that's hefty, 3.5 hours. Music will be your friend then, if you're on a 3.5 hour drive. Is to watch films next year that I have never seen, so some big ones. So Whatever Happened to Baby Jane, for example, is a film I've never ever seen. Parasite, I've never seen. I know it's not an old classic, but I've never seen that one. So I'm going to get round to watching that one. So I'm starting to build up this list of classic films that I've never ever watched that I'm going to watch. So that's my viewing habits for 2026. And so I do things like that. So I do like the New Year's resolutions. I'm also going to try and read more because I have you can't really see it too much here, but I have a pretty big book collection. I love buying books with the purpose of reading them, but I just never read them because I'm too busy watching films, watching TV shows. I've watched 51 seasons of TV this year. Crazy. And something like 150 films, where I know people have watched more, but the 51 TV seasons, that's a lot of viewing hours. And so next year I'm going to purposely make an effort to try and get through some of these books that I've bought. I was given the Al Pacino biography, Sonny Boy, last Christmas, and I've read maybe, I think, the first 2 chapters, and it's a really good book, but I haven't touched it at all this year, and it's near enough December. I haven't read anything this year. Crazy. So I've got some more reading that I'm planning on doing. Definitely planning on playing some more video games, and just trying to have less plates spinning. So what movies have I watched? Well, thankfully, it's not a huge list, guys and girls. Probably only about 6 or 7 movies. I've watched a wide range of movies because I'm fortunate enough in what I do, and we talked about podcasting and why I do it. It's a legacy and it's therapeutic and stuff like that. Of sometimes being sent through screener discs. So, review discs. Sometimes I'll get an actual copy of them. Sometimes it'll just be a disc that is just a white disc with the film title on it. But it's got all the content that you need on there anyway. And so I got a whole bunch of these last month for films that are coming out in December. And because of the crazy catch up with Stranger Things, it sort of put me a little bit behind where I needed to be so I could get these screener films watched, get my review typed up and preloaded onto my from pagetoscreen.com website, ready to send out into the world and recommend movies to people. So this coming week in the evenings, when we weren't watching Stranger Things, I would be catching up on some of these screeners. And that's what I've been doing. So the one that I watched last night, now one of the things I love about movies, there's many, many things I love about movies. I like looking forward to a movie that I think looks great, and then I watch it and it is. That's always great. I like going into a film where I don't think I'm going to enjoy it, but I'm going to give it a go anyway, and then it turns out it's really good. That happens quite often. I also like watching a film that I know virtually nothing about. I have no real interest in watching it. See you later, Ghost. You take care. Thank you for hanging around and spending some of your time in the chat channel. Much appreciated. Be careful on those roads as well, because there's some crap ones around. And thanks for the tea. And I love getting a film that I know nothing about, don't really know enough about it to go, well, I'm interested in it or I'm not interested in it, but I just put it on anyway. And that's what I did last night with one of them. And it's a film called Wild Style, right? And it came out in 1982. So this was before, I've got itchy nose for some reason. This was before Breakdance, it was before Beat Street, it was certainly before Breakdance 2, Electric Boogaloo, best film title ever. And Wild Style, all I knew about it was an early 80s movie. I originally, for some reason, thought it was a documentary. I don't quite know why. I didn't know anybody that was in it. I didn't know what it was about. I just knew it was an early 80s film or documentary that was set in New York, and it featured rap music. I'm not a huge rap music. I don't know anything. My entire education of rap music is probably the Run DMC, Aerosmith team up, Straight Outta Compton, and 8 Mile. That's probably it. That's the confession. That's about as much as I know about rap music, or Eddie Murphy in his Beverly Hills Cop films. So I knew enough about Wild Style that's what I knew. It was New York. It was early 80s. It had rap music in it. And I put it on last night, and within the first couple of minutes, I'm thinking, what am I watching? What am I watching? But then very, very quickly, that film just gobbled me up. I had an absolute blast watching Wild Style. I have this fascination with 1970s, early 80s New York. I think on screen it looks insanely cinematic. I think it looks amazing. The Warriors, Taxi Driver, obviously Escape from New York, which was shot in St. Louis. But there's all that sort of stuff. I have a real fascinating Death Wish, all this type of stuff. Looks like a scary place to be. I've been to the 21st century in New York, and that's great. One of my favorite places in the world. But in the sort of Serpico type, Fort Apache, the Bronx sort of New York, it looks very scary, but my God, does it look cinematic on the screen. So I was just sucked into this Wild Style film. The basic premise of Wild Style is a film, it's not a documentary, but it has a documentary look to it in the same way something like Kevin Smith's Clerks, Dazed and Confused, some of the Richard Linklater stuff, like Before Sunrise and stuff looks like. So you're watching actors playing characters, but the characters don't look like they're cinematically acting. They look like they're just being themselves. And it focuses on this guy called Raymond, aka Zorro, who's a graffiti artist. And we see him in this film creating all this graffiti on walls and trains and all that type of stuff. And the graffiti creation is just insane. It's gorgeous. It's absolutely stunning. And you know that this is not CGI or somebody else is painting it, because this character, Raymond, is played by a real life and very famous graffiti artist called Lee, I think his name is. And so we follow him, and then we follow his journey around New York in the early 80s. And we see him encounter break dancers, and you watch the break dancers doing the thing, and you're like, that's how he's spinning around in your head. What the frick? How are you not hurting yourself? So we see all of that. Then there's a lot of rap music, and this is all before rap music took off big time. And again, I'm not an expert in rap music, so if I've got some bits wrong, sue me, or don't. But it was a really strange and wonderful film to watch. It's not my normal type of movie, but I loved it. So much so when I finished it, I went back to the menu on the Blu-ray and put the commentary on and just sat and watched the film again, listening to the commentary by the writer-director Charlie Ahern, talk about where the idea came from, how everybody were like, why would we give you money to make a film about graffiti and breakdancing? This makes no sense. And then how some of the funding came from the UK, and the film just became, and here we are over 40 years later, does Arrow Video are releasing an all singing, all dancing, pun intended, version of this. I think it comes out tomorrow, 1st of December, Wild Style. Really, really good. Really, really enjoyed that. One of the other ones I watched is also an early 80s film. It's called Possession. This might be one for John Shelton because he likes his horror. It's a 1981 weird as fuck film starring Sam Neill. So this was one of Sam Neill's first films. He would then go on to play Damien Thorne in The Final Conflict and so on. Yes, it is. Yep. And I love watching Sam Neill in pretty much anything. So when I saw Possession, Sam Neill, I'm like, well, I've heard of this film. Let me put a request in for Screen-A-Disc. Screen-A-Disc shows up. The basic premise of Possession is Sam Neill's away on a business trip. He comes back home to Berlin. Yes, he's a New Zealand guy, but lives in Berlin for some reason. And his wife is like, don't know if I like you anymore. And he's like, why? Why do you like me anymore? Oh, I don't know, I think we need a break. And there's a whole marriage collapse thing going on there. Sam Neill gets really paranoid about why she don't like me all of a sudden, what's going on. He hires like private investigators to follow her around. Worst follow job I've ever seen in my entire life, by the way. And then the whole just weird craziness just ensues. The reason I'm saying worst follow job in my entire that I've ever seen is it's filmed in Berlin, this movie, and there are scenes where Sam Neill's wife is walking down the street with 2 shopping bags, so she's done the weekly shop, and there's a guy like 10 feet behind her, just following her, and nobody else on the streets is deserted, and she starts speeding up because she's like, hang on a minute, somebody's 10 feet behind me here. So she speeds up, so this guy speeds up, and then she ends up sprinting with these shopping bags, running across the road to get away from him. The guy following her, secretly, he ends up like sprinting down alleyways and stuff, chasing her, right behind her, still 10 feet behind her. And then all of a sudden she'll stop and she'll turn around and this guy will just stop and look in a shop window like, oh, I'm just straightening my tie. Hoping this woman hasn't realised that he's in fact chasing her down the street. It's very, very strange. Weird, weird film. So whilst I might not have hugely enjoyed the film, Sam Neill's performance is amazing in it because he's Sam Neill. But also the extra features on this Blu-ray are kind of mind-boggling. Hey, welcome back, Ghost. Talking about the movie Possession. So when the film comes out in Europe or outside the US, it's 124 minutes. That's 2 hours 4 minutes. It comes out, done. I don't know how successful it was, but it's over 40 years later and we're still talking about it, and it's been reissued, so it was obviously successful enough. So 81 it comes out, 124 minutes, 2 hours 4 minutes. In 1983, so 2 years later, it comes out in the US. It comes out in the US at 77 minutes, so 1 hour 17 minutes. The US distributors had chopped out like 40 odd minutes of the movie. They'd re-edited a whole bunch of it, shifted a load of scenes around, redubbed a lot of the characters, not Sam Neill, but people he's talking to on the telephone, for example. There's new voices on that. There's new optical effects that have been stuck into a lot of the scenes. They have totally changed this film, and not for the better. They've cut the guts out of it, but decided they knew what they were doing, so they made it better. They hadn't. And on this Blu-ray, both versions are on there, so you get to see the proper version at 124 minutes, but then you get to see what these US distributors have done and butchered this thing into 77-minute version. And there's a whole bunch of featurettes that go into that, but also go into the making of the film and all that sort of stuff. So whilst I wasn't a huge fan of the movie Possession, because it was weird, I mean, I like strange films, but that one was a little bit over my sort of strange thing. I love the performance of Sam Neill, and I love the extra features and the fact that Arrow have included this butchered version, which isn't just a case of it's a shorter version, it's a case of it's a totally different version. It was fascinating to watch. So for those of you who like your weird, creepy horror movies, I would check out Possession. There's a tiny spoiler on the opening credits of the film where it says creature effects by Carlo Rambaldi. Now, so I've always hated or disliked, hate's too strong a word, I've always disliked it when credits have that at the beginning, like monster effects by, oh great, so we're going to see a monster then. I'll put it at the end. So I'm sitting watching Possession going, I wonder when the creature gets here. For those of you who are into your movies, which is most of you probably, Carlo Rambaldi would then go on to make E.T. And a whole bunch of others. Very legendary special effects guy. And so, yes, there is a creature in there. Yes, it's very weird. Sam Neill's performance is great. Possession is probably one of those films I'll just have to go back and rewatch at some point further down the line and just see if my head doesn't melt whilst watching it. So that is also out tomorrow, 1st of December, I think, from Arrow Video. The other one I watched is City on Fire. So for those Hong Kong movie enthusiasts out there, which includes me, City on Fire is a film that I'd heard of. I'd never ever seen. I'd heard of it because around the time Reservoir Dogs came out, Tarantino one, people were saying that Reservoir Dogs was inspired by City on Fire. So I'd heard of it back then. I discovered Hong Kong cinema probably early 90s with a double bill of John Woo's The Killer and John Woo's Hard Boiled, two films which I absolutely adore, and fingers crossed Arrow picks those up for release. I believe they have for reissue in 2026. I love them. I absolutely love Hard Boiled, love The Killer, love Bullet to the Head, or is it Bullet in the Head? One of them is a Stallone film, one of them is a John Woo film. And so I then would gravitate towards watching a few more Hong Kong movies. I saw City on Fire on VHS years ago. Nice, a lovely 4.3 non-HD transfer, amazing. dubbed as well. Brilliant. Is there any better way to watch a Hong Kong movie than dodgy English dubs? And so Arrow sent me a screener disc of City on Fire, which I sat down and watched this week. Really enjoyed it. I can see the Reservoir Dogs influence, but those of you who go into City on Fire thinking that you're going to be watching a Hong Kong version of Reservoir Dogs, it's not what you're going to get. The inspiration of it is Chow Yun-fat plays an undercover cop who sort of infiltrates a gang of jewelry robbers, and then it's becomes a bit Reservoir Dogsy that way. It isn't City on Fire is really good, but it isn't the bullet fest that The Killer or Better Tomorrow or Hard Boiled is. At some point we may get a cat cameo, by the way, because I can hear the cat coming up the stairs. So Oscar, hello. Let's have a look. This is Oscar. So I'd mentioned Oscar the Famous Cat, who has his own YouTube channel, and this is Oscar. So we'll see how long before he decides to just do one. So Oscar, John is saying hi to you. So there you go. You're gonna have a seat. Go sit down. Let me finish me chatting about Hong Kong cinema. So it isn't the bullet fest that the cat's just literally wandering over my keyboard now. Brilliant. So it isn't the bullet fest that you're going to get from Hard Boiled or The Killer or anything like that, but there are instances of that in it, because obviously City on Fire isn't John Woo. So what the hell's that cat doing? Literally it's just typed a little crap on my keyboard, so I'm going to delete that because I don't want it dropping into the chat. So City on Fire is out, or is coming out. I'm having to move a lot of the stuff from the desk because the cat is being wonderfully nosy. So City on Fire, good film. One of the things I would love, there's two things I would love to be able to do. There used to be a distribution label, that's the words, Hong Kong Legends, that used to just bring everything. I wish I had those. You see them on eBay now and again. There are hundreds and hundreds of pounds for these collections. I would love to have watched a lot of those. I would also love to see a lot more Jackie Chan films. I think I've probably only seen like a dozen, or maybe even less than that, I think. But I'd love to catch up on those. Same with Cynthia Rothrock. I did an article on my website, I think like 2-3 years ago, going, whatever happened to Cynthia Rothrock? Where'd she go? And she's still very busy. So as I discovered, she's got a film called Black Creek, which has just come out. So she's still here, there, and everywhere. One of my goals for this year was to actually get Cynthia Rothrock on the podcast. Didn't quite happen because real life got in the way for me and all that sort of stuff. But at some point, I may bump it and put it on my list for next year. But she's on Facebook. She's still there. She was big on VHS back in the day. With a lot of Cynthia Rothrock, like Above the Law and Top Squad and all this sort of stuff. I really enjoyed watching City on Fire. So it was very good. The special features on the Blu-ray are not too bad. There's a lot of little featurettes that are subtitled, so a lot of looking back and speaking with the cast and the crew. There's also a commentary, which is an English language commentary, which goes into not just the creation of City on Fire, but it also goes into the whole Hong Kong cinema explosion, and how when City on Fire came out, it was quite shocking because previous to that, Hong Kong police were respected, and it was very rare on film to see a Hong Kong policeman be shot and killed, which happened on City on Fire. And so that sort of freaked audiences out, and they're like, oh my god, cinema's just reached a new level. What's coming next? Well, The Killer and Hard Boiled would be coming next. So I watched that one. I also watched a documentary called The Age of Disclosure, which is, I think it's an Amazon Prime or Amazon Video one, and it's one of these documentaries that it's like a talking heads one, where people are going into UFOs are real, I've met aliens, I've seen aliens, all that type of stuff. I used to, years and years ago, we're talking about weird hobbies and stuff. And one of mine, I was really fascinated by the whole alien UFO abductions, all that type of stuff. I'm fascinated by it, but I used to just buy lots of books. A lot of them I do still have on my shelf behind me. And I used to go to lectures and all that sort of stuff. So I found it very, very fascinating. And so periodically, if there's a documentary that comes out, I do like to check it out, just see if it's telling me anything new. This one kind of didn't. It focuses a lot on the US hearings of like a year or two ago, where they were all behind the microphones going, well, I've seen documents and all that type of stuff. There wasn't anything groundbreaking in this documentary, but it was kind of interesting. So if you like your UFOs, then go check that out, or UAPs as they seem to have renamed them. On Netflix, other than Stranger Things, I finally checked out House of Dynamite by Catherine Bigelow, which I had been looking forward to watching since I heard about it, and then I saw the trailer. I'm a big Catherine Bigelow fan. I think she's awesome. One of my favourite films that she's done is Detroit. She also did The Hurt Locker, Near Dark, Zero Dark 30, Point Break, of course. So House of Dynamite is a multiple angle nuclear drama. So it seems to focus on like the same time period, but from different angles. So from one angle we get Idris Elba as the US president. On another angle we see bits from FEMA. Then we also see things from the White House Situation Room and so on. And it sort of overlaps in the time period. And the basic premise of it is around a country that has launched a nuclear weapon at the US. Will it hit? Where will it hit? What do we do? Do we retaliate? All that side of stuff. The internet, of course, loves to complain and whinge about films. So there was a lot of people complaining about, oh, I didn't like the ending. The ending is kind of ambiguous. It is an ending that lets you sort of decide what you're going to do. It's allowing you to decide what happened. So you're like, well, I think this and I think that. And the whole point of the film, to me, isn't about what happened. It's about watching how these people react to the thing that is happening. So the argument about people going, well, this film sucked because it wasn't my type of ending, it's kind of a silly argument. Great performances. Not my favourite Catherine Bigelow movie. It does feel very much like a Netflix movie because that's what it is. But I'll watch anything that Bigelow does, and I look forward to the next one. And then the final two films that I watched are also rewatches. JFK, Oliver Stone's epic JFK movie, which I tend to watch every couple of years. Every year or so I do watch a whole bunch of Oliver Stone movies. He's probably made maybe like 20 movies. Obviously he's made a whole lot of documentaries as well. But I do enjoy going back and rewatching Oliver's movies. I'm a big fan of that guy. And JFK is it's an absolute masterpiece. And then the other one is Tobe Hooper's Salem's Lot, the 3-hour version. Annette and I are doing a rewatch of all the Stephen King's works. We did start this just before we started our Stranger Things watch, so we kind of stalled a bit. So we've watched Carrie. We then moved on to Salem's Lot, which we finished last night. We'd watched the first half last week and watched the second half last night. The next one is Stanley Kubrick's The Shining, which is a film, of course, I've seen many, many times, but we're going to be watching that one. So we have a bit of a spreadsheet that's tracking all these Stephen King things. She's read all the books. I've seen all the films. We just thought, you know what, sod it. Let's go back and we'll do a bit of a rewatch and we'll work our way through then. Coming up this week, I am going to be watching a British film called Boston Kickout, which came out on Blu-ray, I think last week, set in Britain, even though it's got the word Boston in it. It's a bit of an unusual title, and it stars a very, very young Andrew Lincoln and a very, very young John Sim, and it was around the time of Lock, Stock and Hard Men and Train Spotting and all this sort of stuff. So it's that type of movie, Human Traffic, one of those. And then the other film is The Wild Geese from 1979, which Severin are just bringing out this all singing, all dancing it's not all singing, all dancing, but it's a special features packed edition of the Wild Geese. There are multiple commentaries on there. There are featurettes, documentaries, all sorts. It is a bit pricey. It's 64 quid for a single film, but you do get a lot with it. There is a wonderful book that you get with it. I think there's like art cards and all that sort of stuff. So I've been given screener discs, so thankfully I didn't have to pay 65 quid for that. But I'm going to be rewatching The Wild Geese. I haven't seen The Wild Geese since probably the late 80s, so I will go into that remembering very, very little, other than the fact I think Richard Burton's in it, Roger Moore, Richard Harris, great cast, but what's the Coffin Joe box set? I remember like a couple of Black Fridays ago, I went nuts just buying a lot, because I had money back then. I went crazy buying loads of box sets. I haven't done it for a couple of years, but I bought like the Friday the 13th one, the I Spit on Your Grave thing. I've got this Laurel and Hardy one with all these, everything in it. I went nuts buying loads and loads of box sets. I still have a lot of the box sets. I'm looking around now to try and see if I've got any of them to grab, but I don't. They're all out of reach. But I have to sort of restrain myself from buying box sets because I don't have the funds to buy them. And I just never get around to watching them. I do have the Dollman one, which I picked up. I don't know if you've seen that one, but that's one I picked up with the movies. So there's like 8 films in that one. That is one that I'm hanging on to that one because I do want to watch all of those. That was the last box set that I picked up, which was 50 quid. Definitely worth it for 8 films, and you get a nice little comic, graphic novel and stuff in there. I did a full unboxing video on my channel somewhere of that, but I do love a box set. I just don't have the money to buy the box sets, so I have to restrain myself. Fingers crossed at Christmas I will. I do. It's like the full moon stuff. I would love to watch all the full moon stuff. There's that many. There's like 300-400 movies, and I know you can buy them on the full moon websites, but if they're being shipped from the US, you're going to get hammered for shipping costs. Certainly here in the UK, it's not cheap to import. But I saw this box set, and I'm like, this could be the beginning of my full moon collection. I've had this a couple of months, haven't watched any of it yet. It's ridiculous. So I do need to start catching up on some bits and pieces. I don't know there's got to be the ultimate box set that everybody would like, whether it exists or whether it doesn't. I think I would love a huge box set that has all the Jackie Chan stuff in it, for example. I mean, that'll do. I'll happily spend a year just working my way through that. I would love a full moon features box set. And I would also quite like a full collection of all the Woody Allen films, because, I mean, some of them are hit and miss, but a lot of them are hit. Funny guy. And so I'd quite like those, but, you know, I don't think any of those box sets exist, because obviously the films are all from different distributors and licensed to different countries and stuff like that. But I do love a box set. I have quite a few in my collection, not as many as I used to. I sort of think to how many I've got rid of over the years. You know, why? Space. That's why. And sometimes you got to trade them in to pay bills. So there's that. So I'm watching Wild Geese, and then I think I'm all caught up with screener discs. I have this thing where, and anybody who's run a website for years will know, at one point discs used to just drop through your letterbox. It was, once you got onto a distributor's press list, it was great because you would just get loads of them for like everything. And then over the past few years, and certainly post-pandemic, it then became screener links, where you get an email, you click on it, you watch on a computer. I hate watching films on a PC. I would much rather have a disc. And so anybody who sends a screener disc through is more likely to get it watched than a screener link. I'm not a fan. I spend way too much time on a PC, and I'm sure John will testify as well. I think we as adults, sometimes we spend way too long on screens, you know, be it on our phone checking tweets or Facebooks or Blue Skies or Threads or Instagrams or TikToks or YouTubes. We spend way too much time staring at screens. I'm starting to gravitate away from that slightly, just cutting it down a little bit, which is why next year I am planning on just reading some books. I need to finish my own book. I did start writing one, my autobiography. And weirdly enough, it's quite interesting. It's not just all about somebody who watches movies and podcasts. I wrote it from year 0 up to the age of 37. So I've got like the past 20 odd years to write, and the 20 odd years is basically the whole podcasting movie thing. Don't know how I'm going to do that, but at some point I'd like to finish my book, just in case I drop dead in and it's finished. Otherwise it's on a hard drive unfinished. That sucks. That would make me sad. That's what I'm going to think of if I decide to like have a heart attack. I'm going to be like, I've not finished my book. Shit. No, I'm going to be too busy going ouch. But I'd quite like to finish that. There's a whole bunch of projects I'd quite like to finish. We all have our long to-do list. I'm sure, John, yours is about 8 pages long. So is mine. I think sometimes we just need to learn to just go, let's just stop spinning the plates. Let's have a breather. It's kind of like with the podcasting. I know I'll try and do one of these each week. And I enjoy doing them each week. But if there's a week when I don't really feel like doing one, or I'm busy, it's all right. I'm good. I'll see you the week after. It's fine. I think unless you're making money on it, not necessarily even making money, but if you're getting something that you need to pay bills, or as a commitment, you've told somebody you're going to do it, then you should do it. Sometimes it's fine to go, do you know what? Everybody can wait. It's cool. I'll pick it up later on. There is nothing wrong with that at all. My plans this afternoon, I'm going to wind this one up in a second. My plans this afternoon, I'm going to go downstairs, I'm going to have a nice cup of tea because my voice is a bit in need of a drink. And Annette and I are going to be watching The Hunchback of Notre Dame, the Disney one. We've been doing a Disney watch through. We started it like a year ago with Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. And we're watching all the animated movies. So we're up to sort of mid-90s now. And The Hunchback of Notre Dame will be the next one that we sit down and watch. So I'm quite looking forward to seeing that. I've seen it before, but it's been a while. Then tonight, probably going to watch some Welcome to Derry. And I'm going to plot out my week ahead. I've signed up again for Apple TV. Got an email through. I juggle my streaming platforms because we don't need them all. And we don't have the money to have them all. So we juggle them. Whenever there's a special offer on one, like jump on that one, watch all the content on that one. Offer runs out, dump it, jump onto another one that's got a special offer. So I'd signed up for a 6-month offer where I get Apple TV for £4.99 rather than twice that. And so we're going to be going into things like Slow Horses and I can't remember, we'd done a watch list last night, we're just adding bits and pieces, but Slow Horses is one we want to get into. So we're going to be dumping our Disney Plus one, which runs out at the end of the month. We've had that for £3.49 for 3 or 4 months. Dump that one, jump into Apple. Then around the 6 months time we'll look, and if there's a Disney Plus offer again, we'll jump into that, and we will resume with the Disney classics and any other Star Wars shows that pop up. Other than that, I'm just going to have a chilled out day. Sunday should be the day of nothing. It should be the day of doing whatever the hell you want. I decided I wanted to podcast and just see who was out there. Huge thanks to everybody who dipped in, whether it's for a couple of minutes, whether it's for the full duration. Thank you to John, thank you to Ghost. I've now learned that there are people out there who are very enthusiastic about bad roads, which is fascinating. And I just hope you all enjoy your afternoon. So this will be out on audio. For those listening on audio, that's going to confuse you because you'll be like, hang on a minute, I've just listened to the audio one. Why are you telling me? Hope everybody has a wonderful afternoon. Hope I do too. But You all take care, and next time I speak to you, which will probably be next Sunday, it'll be December. It will be December.